Welcome to this video, yet another one of the Endgame Basics and Theory series, and we are going to look at the first Rook endgames. Now in this series, Rook endgames are really important because they simply come up so often. For some reason, Rook endgames are the most frequent endgames that arise, probably because the rooks are at the edge of the board and probably they're the last pieces that come into play, and therefore in the most cases also the last pieces that get exchanged. Yeah, this will be the first video of many videos on Rook endgames, and we even have to cover lots of ground with this type of position, like Rook and Pawn against Rook. This looks very simple. I mean, this position that we have in front of the board is simple because it's the simplest of them all in a way when you talk about this type of endgame. But Rook and Pawn against Rook can be very tricky, and there are so many positions that can come up. It's really well worth studying because so many points are lost and gained by good play, or by lost by worse play, by bad play. In those endgames, it's absolutely countless, really. Yeah, we start with the most basic position. This is called the Philidor, defense of Philidor position. Again, a Philidor position. If you have looked at, if you have watched the video on Queen against Rook, there is also a Philidor position. Philidor really did groundbreaking work almost 250 years ago. Yeah, black to play and draw. It's a very famous way to draw against this setup. What black needs to do here to secure the draw is the move Rook b6. Sometimes this defense, I mean, it's commonly known as Philidor, but it's Philidor's position, but sometimes also called the 6th rank defense. It is characterized by this barrier that the black rook is setting up. The white king cannot cross the 6th rank. This is the important thing, and cannot support his pawn and rook to also, with the king on f6, for example, you would threaten checkmate with the rook. So this kind of thing is absolutely necessary to push the pawn through at the end. The rook on the 6th rank is the ideal piece to make sure that the king is not advancing. White now is absolutely unable to make any progress. It is useful to know that Rook b6 is not the only way to draw. There are other ways to draw. For example, Rook b1 is also possible, but it's absolutely essential to know this drawing method on the 6th rank because it is coming up so often and it is absolutely safe and easy to play. There is very little that can happen once you have set up this defensive formation. White really only has one try. He needs to push the pawn, in this case the f-pawn, at some point. And this is very important. Here it's the f-pawn. It is absolutely unimportant what pawn it is. The defensive mechanism works with all pawns. It can be the f-pawn, the g-pawn, the e-pawn. It's absolutely not important. It's also a setup that you can use on the 5th rank or 4th rank if the whole situation here is just shifted one rank south if you want. So pawn on f4, king on g4, you play rook b5. It's not that important when the pawn is far back, but it's nevertheless a good setup. So white probably will play f6 now. Everything else is not leading to anything. You cannot push the king. What you can try to do is go for a rook trade. This could be an idea. Let's say white tries this. He goes with this. Then black simply stays with the king. Yeah, you can just stay on the 8th rank. If white offers this rook trade, we can trade because we are just in time here to prevent white from reaching any of the critical squares. So king g5 and black now just stays. We have the opposition and draw easily. There is absolutely no way here that white can force a rook trade that is winning for him. Yeah, it requires very little accuracy from black here. White will play f6 if he wants to try something. So f6. Yeah, and now we come to the point of all this. Black now plays rook to b1. Yeah, black goes to b1, so that now he's able to give checks from the back. With the pawn now on f6, the white king has no place to hide from the checks. This is not the case if the pawn is on f5. So white could play, if the pawn would be on f5, he could go to f6, for example, after a check on g1. This is not possible now. The white pawn does not provide any shelter anymore, so black now will be able to give checks, yeah, eternally if you want. White has no way forward. He can give some check here if you want.
Check.
Does not lead anywhere. Can push the king, and now we start to give the checks. And white has absolutely no way out of this. This drawing mechanism, the Philidor defense, the 6 rank defense, is the most important endgame position probably that you should know. Among Rook endgames, this is certainly the case, and maybe it's the case in the whole world of endgames, because it comes up so often. And very often, this is the end of those kind of Rook endgames. There are, however, cases where you are not able to take this defensive position, and we should look at all of them, alternative methods that sometimes are necessary. Let's look at a position of that type, but a little different one now. Yeah, this position is indeed different, and the difference is it's white to move. Yeah, what about this position with white to move? This is in fact a loss. King g6 is the winning move here, and the only move really that wins. Why is it winning now? The problem is that black now is simply too late. If he now gives this check, white will play f6, and now has the mate threat. Rook a8. Yeah, black now has no choice. He needs to return. Yeah, to cover the mate. And now white is winning due to this idea. Rook to h7, threatening rook h8 mate. Yeah, and this is really nothing that black can prevent. He can play king g8, after which f7, king f8, rook h8 picks up the rook. Other defensive tries, if we go back and not give this check, other defensive tries don't make much of a difference. If black plays rook b1, for example, then we go rook a8, king e7, f6, check, important, it's with the tempo, f6 check, king e6, rook e8 check, king anywhere, it does not matter, f7, and we promote. Let's go back. Yeah, what else is there for black to try? Let's say he stays on the 8th rank. Then white plays f6, king g8, and now important for white to win, he needs to give this check first. Yeah, if you play rook h7, then rook c6 means that you cannot make much progress. You have not spoiled anything, you can still return here and get to the same position, but ultimately you need to give this check. Yeah, the point is that this is very elementary. Or after king f8 we play rook h7 with a tempo. The tempo is the mate threat. Yeah, and now we again win. Yeah, this we have already seen. Or alternatively, if king e8 is played,
check,
we just force the rook trade and promote our pawn. So very little details can be very important here. It looks like the same position, but the right to move is a huge difference. Yeah, as we have seen, if black is to move, then rook b6 secures the draw. Let's now look at a specific case where this passive defense with the rook on the back rank is indeed working. Here the big difference is that the side with the extra pawn has the g pawn. The g pawn or the b pawn, so the knight pawns, are exceptions. With those pawns, the defending side can even draw if he just stays with the king in front of the pawn and shuffles on the back rank. Yeah, like on the 8th rank here. There's absolutely no way forward for white in this position. What we can try is something like that.
Check.
Let's say rook g7 as the first move. Yeah. Very important is that black now plays the right move, because you can still go wrong. If you play king f8, you unfortunately still lose. The reason is that after king h7, the black king will be pushed away from the g pawn, and we will reach a Lucena position. This is what we are going to look at next. And it will be pretty clear once you see what's coming up. The black king is simply pushed away from the pawn. Black absolutely must go to h8. And now white is in a situation where there's absolutely no progress to be made. He can give this check if he wants.
Check.
We go back. Again a check, and again we go back. White can stay on the 7th, and yeah, but where is he ever going to make progress? On a rook move, we simply move our rook. So this is a very simple defensive setup that's useful to know with the g pawn or the b pawn, especially if you consider some practical situation, let's say in a blitz game, and you see, okay, the opponent has the b and g pawn. You don't need to worry about anything here, as long as you are in front of the pawn and you can put the rook on the 8th rank. You can just shuffle and shuffle. Not to f8 maybe, allowing g7, but you know, you can just shuffle. The only thing that really needs to be kept in mind that
check, check.
Here you need to stay here in front of the pawn and not allow this kind of thing where you are pushed away from the pawn, and eventually will get to a Lucena position where you lose. Yeah, what is this famous Lucena position? This is the second most important position in the elementary rook endgames, right after the Philidor defense on the 6th rank. Let's now look at the famous position. Yeah, this is the classic Lucena position. Yeah, what exactly is the characteristics of this position? It's about positions where the attacking side with the pawn is on the 7th rank with this pawn and is in front of the pawn. This happens very, very frequently. White here has a winning maneuver, winning scheme that happens very, very often. It all starts with this check here.
Check.
Here on d1. Also note that it's not very much dependent on the pawn that we talk about. It's the same thing with the g pawn, by the way. For example, check on d1. Black king must go to c6. That's the toughest. This being very basic. So king c6. And now how do we help with the rook to promote the pawn? The key move here is the rook move, rook d4. That's the important thing about this position. And it is also commonly referred to building a bridge. Yeah, and why a bridge? Yeah, we will see soon enough. The thing is, black really does not have anything better than to play, let's say, rook g1. There is no alternative to that. And now white can play king e7, rook e1 check, king f6, rook f1 check. He really has nothing else. King e6. Yeah, note that white is all the time threatening rook here and promote. So no, black needs to keep on checking. And now we have king f5, rook f1, rook f4. And this is the bridge that this maneuver is referring to. Rook f4 is the bridge in a way on the f file that shields the king from the checks from the back and helps to promote the pawn. Yeah, this is absolutely super important. In the initial position, there is more than one way to win. Yeah, for example, rook h1 is also winning. Rook h1, h8, g8. But this is less important, really. If you know the motif, you can always use it. If we just for once imagine this would be on the g file, yeah, all one to the side, then rook h1 obviously is not possible, as there's no rook i1. This is a very important rook endgame, the Lucena position with the bridge building. Let's look at a slightly different position that has a direct connection with the Lucena position. Yeah, we see that we are close to the Lucena. What we need here is we need to get this advanced. King to f8, pawn to f7. However, this is not so easy to achieve. With white to move, you can easily play a wrong move here that looks totally normal. Let's say you play king g6. After king g6, black plays king e7, and you don't really have achieved anything. Yeah. Now you cannot go f6 for obvious reasons. And how are you going to make progress here? Yeah, let's say rook a7.
Check.
Black gladly goes to f8 and will draw this. g6 is really a big mistake. How do we get ahead here? We need to cover the f-pawn somehow so that the king can advance. If we play rook a5 in order to prepare this, black is just going here. And we're not really getting anywhere. Yeah, any king move now, for example, is answered by the check. We are not spoiling the win here, though. Rook a5 is not spoiling the win, but it's nothing that really brings you much progress if black defends accurately. The only very reliable way forward here is the move rook f8. Yeah, it looks a bit counterintuitive maybe, but it's important to remember. Now white prepares a king move and then the advance of the pawn. Yeah, black really does not have much of a defense here. What is the toughest one? Probably staying on their file to keep this pawn under fire. If black plays this, for example, we get to g7 and ultimately
check
to f7. Yeah, we are very close to the Lucena position now. Yeah, this can be tried, for example. Yeah, and now we prepare the march of the f-pawn. It will already promote. So let's go back and check if black stays on the f-file. Rook f2. King g7, of course, this was what we had prepared all along.
check,
Rook g2 check. Yeah, black can also try king to e7, after which
check,
we now give the check. King e6 and rook
check,
e8. Yeah, we want to push the king away from the pawn. If now king f5, we can just push the pawn and we will promote. Black should go to the d file, but okay, it's not something that will save him. We just have f7 and will promote. So that's really not helping. Let's look at the check. Okay, now we have managed what we wanted to do, getting the king to f7. Rook f2 and f6. Rook f1, rook a8. Yeah, the final step is to get the king to f8. Yeah, something like that, for example.
check,
This will net the desired result. We are now very, very close to the Lucena.
check,
And that's it. Can put
check,
it on the board once
check,
more.
check, check,
And we have built the bridge again. So it's not that easy sometimes to get to this winning position. If we go all the way back, really only rook f8 is the reliable way forward in this endgame. Otherwise, we either spoil it or we make it much more difficult than we needed to make it. Okay, let's look at a slightly different position now. Yeah, this looks very similar to the position that we had before. However, there is a substantial difference. This is a draw. The idea, rook e8, which looks very much like rook f8 of the example before, now can be answered by rook h1. And this is a difference. Black now has the additional option to check on the h-file. This means after king f7, he now has the move
check,
rook h7. And this is of utmost importance. After this check, king g6, black plays king d7, which saves the day. Yeah, quite a funny motif, a counter attack. And here, of course, there's no way for white to win at all. Yeah, this is like here. You just drop all the way back, and here white is faced with this threat, and you get nowhere. Let's return a couple of moves. If white after rook h1 tries the move rook e7 check, we go to d8. Yeah, of course, heading in front of the pawn if possible. This is again a pretty simple drawing position. Yeah, something like rook f2. Now you give the check. The king goes away, and we have the 6th rank defense, the Philidor position again. If white plays rook f6, we can just stay. He has made no progress whatsoever. Of course, you cannot take
check,
as e takes f, f7 wins. Okay, now for something slightly different. As usual, you need to really look at various versions of those positions to get to understand the small little nuances that are there. Okay. Yeah, here we have a position with black to move and defend. This is again a very important position, because here black already is in a bit of trouble. He cannot get to the second rank, to the sixth rank defense, the Philidor position. So can he still draw? In fact, he can if he plays accurately. The right move here is rook to f1. The reason for that is that if you imagine white checks, and this is what white will do, or can do, rook a8,
Check.
we of course we have only this move, and this shows why the rook must be on f1. We must be ready to meet f6. Yeah, so simply with the capture. This means that the check on a8 has not given white any benefit here. He basically has to return, and then we get the same position all over again. The only way that white can try to make any progress here is not the check, but king f6. Yeah, now very important. What should black's king do? He is threatened with a mate, as simple as that, and you cannot play, let's say, something like that, because
Check.
here we simply
Check.
drift into a lost king and pawn endgame. What black has to do now, he needs to decide if he wants to go to the short side, this side of the pawn, the short side, or the long side. And the solution is that you go to the short side. This is very important. And the reason for that is that ultimately we need to give checks with the rook from here, from the side, somewhere here. And this side needs to be long enough so that you can give the checks. We will see what I'm talking about pretty quickly. Note that instead king e8 will lose, because
Check.
after the check, king d7 and rook f8, we reach the position that we had seen before. White will now force the Lucena. So king g8 is the solution. Yeah, how does it continue? White gives the check.
Check.
And king to h7. No other move. How should white try to progress here? If he goes to e6, we go to g7. Again, blocking this idea, and white has no way forward. Rook f8 is the toughest try. And now we see the defensive idea. Black now switches all the way to this side of the board and prepares checks from this side. Rook e8. There's really nothing else that white can do. And now we can just drop back and ask white, okay, what exactly did you achieve now? So rook e8 does not lead white anywhere. Is there something else that he can try? Yeah, not really. A king move, you get checked, leads nowhere. If you give the check on f7, you of course just go back. Yeah, we gladly take a position on f8. Something like this. It's a very easy draw. Yeah, note that this is coming. And we have the classic Philidor defense. Really absolutely no way forward after the right move, rook a1. Is there something that white can still try? Let me check. Rook e8, rook f1, rook e5. Yeah, trying to cover it from the side. And we go to g8, I guess. Yes, to g8. And we still have secured the draw. Yeah, after rook e7, we go here, and it's again a hailstorm of checks. We are very close to just step in front of the pawn, and this is of course a very easy draw. So this is an important thing to remember. If we go back, that in this position you need to step to the short side, not to the long side of the pawn, because you need all this space for the checks afterwards. Yeah, so that
Check.
we in this situation can go here and have the checks. This is completely impossible from the other side because the board is simply ending. So we need to get with the king on the short side, the rook on the long side to give the check. Very important. Okay. Yeah, there are many more positions with just rook and pawn against rook that need to be studied, but in this video of about 30 minutes you now have learned some absolutely key ideas and motifs how to defend these kind of positions, or how to conduct the position if you have the pawn, like building the bridge, a very important device to win this rook endgame in certain positions. Very important, most important is also the Philidor defense on the 6th rank, and also this what we just have looked at, to know that you need to go to the short side of the pawn to defend. It is a good idea to practice these kind of positions against a computer, especially against the table base if you have the opportunity, because it will play absolutely perfectly. And with this you can really make sure that you get accustomed to those endgames and that it becomes second nature to play them correctly. I can assure you that with very little time on the clock, the simplest things can get tricky in those endgames. So it's really a good idea to time and again repeat those drawing mechanisms, or those mechanisms like building the bridge, so that you are able to perform them even under very limited time. Some of those things you might argue, I will find that over the board, it's no problem. Yeah, if you have lots of time, maybe, but normally those kind of things arise when you only have very little time left on the clock, or you are living off the increment in modern day time controls, and then you won't work out everything over the board. It's simply not possible to do if you have little time left. So familiarizing yourself with those motifs and basic things is very rewarding in the long run. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this basic introduction to king, rook and pawn against the lonely king and rook, and there will be many more to come. Thanks for watching.